You are at a friend's get-together, mid-laugh, and everything feels fine. Then, in an instant, a switch flips. The friendly chatter suddenly sounds like static. Your smile feels heavy, and a single overwhelming thought floods your mind. I need to be home now. It's not a suggestion, it's a critical system failure warning. Every part of your brain that isn't screaming for silence is suddenly rerouted to a new urgent mission. How do you get out of here without anyone noticing? The internal calculus begins. Can you feign a sudden headache? Maybe a quick trip to the bathroom that accidentally lasts for 10 minutes? You could even stage a fake emergency call, complete with a furrowed brow for dramatic effect. These aren't just thoughts. They are well-rehearsed strategies in a covert operation for personal space. And as you plot your exit, a quiet but persistent thought emerges. This must mean you're rude, or maybe even a little broken. But let's reframe that thought entirely. This sudden urge to withdraw isn't a character flaw. It doesn't mean you're antisocial or failing at some fundamental human skill. It's an important signal from a very particular kind of cognitive architecture. And to understand that architecture, we first need to appreciate that socializing isn't passive. For your brain, it's one of the most cognitively expensive tasks you can ask it to perform. Because while it feels like casual conversation, your brain is running a full-scale cognitive marathon. It's actively decoding nonverbal cues, a slight frown, a shift in posture. It's managing your own impression, making sure you seem engaged. It's filtering out background music and other conversations just to focus on one voice. All while accessing your long-term memory for a relevant anecdote and constructing your next sentence in real time. This isn't just multitasking. It's a high-stakes performance that demands more focused, directed attention than many complex professional tasks. And this intense expenditure of energy reveals the real texture of the problem. It's not a failure of will. It's a simple biological depletion of a very specific, finite resource. This is why the problem has nothing to do with how much you like the people you're with. This finite resource is your social battery. And while that term might feel new, the psychological science behind why it drains is surprisingly well established. In psychology, this experience is closely tied to a concept called ego depletion. It's the idea that our capacity for self-control and complex mental tasks is a finite resource that can be used up. All of this heavy lifting, the social calculus we just described, is handled by a specific region of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. And understanding the intense, sustained workload we place on this one area is the key to understanding why your social battery drains so quickly. Think of your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your brain. During a social event, it isn't just attending the meeting, it's running it. It's managing your emotional regulation, inhibiting the impulse to check your phone, and constantly interpreting the subtext of a friend's joke. This non-stop, high-level management is profoundly taxing. And the real reason your battery drains isn't one single dramatic event, but the cumulative effect of thousands of tiny, invisible calculations your brain makes every single minute. Each one of these social calculations, every polite smile when you're tired, every moment of active listening, is a small withdrawal from your energy bank. For some people, these withdrawals are simply larger because their cognitive architecture processes each interaction with more depth. It's not a flaw. It's a more resource-intensive operating system. To truly grasp the texture of this, it helps to think of it not as a personal failing, but as a simple matter of hardware and software. Let's think of your social battery, like the one in your smartphone. You start the day at 100%. A quiet one-on-one chat is like sending a text message, a tiny dip in power. A work meeting is like a long video call, a noticeable drain. But a loud, crowded party? That's like streaming 4K video while running GPS and a graphics-intensive game all at once. The battery drain is rapid and inevitable. You would never get angry at your phone for hitting 5% and needing a charge. So why do we get angry at ourselves for the exact same process? This explains the what, but it doesn't quite capture the whole architecture of the problem. Because the real deeper question is, why do some people's batteries seem to drain so much faster than others? It's tempting to just label this introversion and move on, but it's more nuanced. Often, the speed of the drain has less to do with the party itself and everything to do with the second, hidden conversation you're constantly having with yourself. For many people, the external social event is only half the picture. The other half is a constant, high-bandwidth internal monologue. While you're listening to a story, you're also analyzing its subtext, checking if your facial expression is right, and reviewing a similar conversation you had last week. You're essentially running two demanding programs at once, one processing the outside world and one processing your inner world. This constant dual processing isn't a choice. It's the default setting for a certain kind of cognitive architecture, and the science behind it is fascinating. In her landmark book, The Introvert Advantage, psychologist Dr. Marty Olson-Laney explains that the brains of many introverts have a higher sensitivity to the neurotransmitter dopamine. So, while a highly stimulating environment feels rewarding to some, for this cognitive architecture, it quickly becomes overwhelming. It's a biological reality, not a personal preference. So, if your brain's default state is one of deep internal processing, you're effectively starting a social event with much of your energy already allocated. It's not that you have a smaller battery, it's that a significant portion of its power is constantly dedicated to running this complex inner world. This isn't a system flaw that needs fixing. So let's reframe this entirely. Your social battery doesn't drain quickly because it's weak. It drains quickly because it's powering a more complex, observant, and thoughtful cognitive architecture. But knowing this logically rarely stops the emotional texture of the experience. And that emotional texture is often the hardest part. It's the sharp pang of guilt when you slip out of a party early. It's the quiet frustration of not being able to keep up with friends who seem to have endless energy. And it's that nagging internal story that you're somehow a bad friend for needing to go. These feelings are real, and they are a completely understandable response to a society that often equates constant presence with genuine connection. And that internal story often gets reinforced by a powerful, seemingly logical argument. But humans are social creatures. We need connection. And it's true, we do. But true connection isn't about endurance. It's about presence. Showing up with a depleted battery doesn't honor the relationship. It just fulfills an obligation. Withdrawing to recharge isn't a rejection of connection. It is the very thing that makes genuine present connection possible. And this reveals a critical distinction we so often get wrong. The one between needing solitude and being truly antisocial. Let's be precise here. Antisocial behavior describes a consistent disregard for others. Needing solitude is a temporary act of self-regard to preserve your ability to connect authentically. It's not a rejection of the world, but a strategic retreat. And what happens during that retreat isn't passive. It's a deeply active, restorative process your brain desperately needs. This active recovery is described by what psychologists call attention restoration theory. The intense, directed attention you use to navigate social situations is a finite resource that gets completely depleted. Solitude, particularly in a quiet space, is how it repairs itself. This isn't just about feeling rested. It's about actively rebuilding your capacity for focus and patience. And it raises a fascinating question. What kind of mind requires this specific, profound form of maintenance to function at its best? The kind of mind that requires this maintenance is one built for depth. This need to withdraw is often the signature of a particular cognitive architecture, one that processes the world with higher resolution. These are the minds that tend to be more empathetic, more creative, and more conscientious. The need for solitude isn't the system failing. It is the price of admission for those very strengths. And it's in that solitude where the unique power of this architecture is truly unlocked. Because in that quiet, your brain isn't just shutting down. It's switching to a different, incredibly powerful mode. This is when your default mode network becomes active. Think of it as your mind finally getting the space to sort its files and connect the dots. The scattered ideas from the week, the subtle emotions you couldn't quite place, they begin to synthesize. This isn't empty time. It is the fertile ground where your best insights, your deepest self-awareness, and your most creative solutions are born. So, knowing the why is liberating. But it naturally leads to the how. This knowledge isn't a license to become a hermit. It's an invitation to engage with your life more intentionally. This isn't about avoiding connection, but about learning the specific strategies to manage your energy so you can show up fully. The most effective approach is to practice what you might call energy budgeting. If you know you have a demanding social event on Saturday, don't schedule another one for Sunday. Treat your downtime as a non-negotiable appointment. You can also learn to communicate your needs clearly, framing it not as a rejection, but as a promise. My battery is low right now, but I'd love to connect when I'm recharged. These practical steps, however, often feel impossible until you confront the one voice that truly holds you back, the inner critic. So let's turn and face that voice directly, the one that whispers you're being difficult, flaky, or just plain weird for needing to leave. We now have the evidence, the neuroscience, the cognitive architecture, to see that story for what it is, a profound misunderstanding. You are not letting people down by tending to your system's needs. This isn't a character flaw to be ashamed of. It is a biological fact to be honored. And that realization offers something more powerful than a strategy. It offers permission. Permission to finally stop apologizing for the needs of your own cognitive architecture. It is not just okay to protect your energy. It is an essential act of self-respect. You aren't giving people the depleted leftovers of a drained battery. You are preserving your energy so you can offer them the full, focused, and genuine gift of your presence. And perhaps that shifts the entire goal of how we think about connection. So, what if the goal isn't to build a bigger battery? What if it's simply to become more graceful in honoring the one you have? A shift away from the exhausting pursuit of endurance and toward a quiet, compassionate acceptance of your own unique architecture. After seeing it's a biological fact, What specific story does your inner critic still tell you when you need to recharge? Answer in the comments below. This need to recharge is just one piece of your unique cognitive wiring. In the next video, we'll explore another, the powerful reason why some of us compulsively collect obscure knowledge. Don't miss the truth about how your mind works. Subscribe and turn on all notifications. Like this so others find it, and share it with someone who needs this permission.